So I've been seeing a lot of videos lately talking about how do I finish my first draft, what do I put in my first draft, and I thought I'd jump on here and just give my opinion because what you're definitely missing is a unpublished writer's opinion. So for me, what happened between my first and my second book and what really changed my ability to write the book quicker and even more efficiently, and even better, was the mindset of draft zero. And that's the draft that obviously comes before draft one. And you're thinking, what is the difference between simply changing the number of the draft? And it is purely the mindset of it. Draft one is where let's all be real, okay? You can say, oh, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we all want our first draft to be perfect, okay? So draft zero takes away that. All it's doing, it's getting all the little pieces you have so far of that book and just shoving them on a document. So let's say you want roughly a 300-page book, 35-ish chapters. You just put 35 pages in, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, blah, 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 blah. Most people know the first scene, the first chapter of your book, right? So you start there, chapter 1. And again, you're not going to do the whole like, oh, how is this going to be perfect thing? You're literally just going to write what happens in this scene. And I'm talking like, let's say you have a main character, Bob, okay? You're like, Bob gets out of bed. Bob grabs a glass of water. Bob trips. The glass of water breaks. It opens a portal to another world. I don't know. But literally, like, you can do a few lines, a few pages, and it can be as simple as that. Literally just being like, X happens, Y happens, Z happens. And then you make it all pretty and fancy in your first draft. And then let's again say like you don't know what comes after that scene, but you know what would happen in a couple chapters time. Well, let's just skip to chapter 5 and shove that scene in there. We can move it about later. It's all just about piecing what you have of the book. You have the last chapter and the first chapter, nothing in between, but the first and the last chapter, okay? And just be like, okay, how do we get from A to B? We need some sort of fight scene, okay? That needs to be roughly at the beginning. We'll put it in chapter 3. We can move it about later. And if you don't fancy creating characters or creating like descriptions at the time, that's what draft zero is for. You just put in brackets, insert character or insert fight scene, and you can deal with it in draft one. For my draft zero, there was about like three chapters that didn't even exist. There was a few chapters that were just 1 page long, just a couple paragraphs, and you make it better in draft one, and now you have something to work with, and you make it sound pretty, and you go from X, Y, Z, and you create a string between them. Instead of just Bob gets out of bed, you write it a bit more descriptively, and yeah, you at least have something to work with. Don't know if that's helpful, but there you go.